Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening, Hannah.
Good evening. How are you?
I am doing fantastic.
Wonderful.
Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good, good. Got a lot going on this episode. We are back in the second week of Star Wars, giving us 2 episodes of different shows, right? So we got the Bad Batch and then the Mandalorian, both coming out, and I feel like they're in better spots after this week. So we'll get into that. Lots going on in episode 2, and then of course of the Mandalorian, then episode 12 of the Bad Batch. So only 4 episodes left of the Bad Batch, and we got a whole season still left of Mandalorian. So we will dive into those reviews here shortly. First up, of course, thanks to our patrons as always. Appreciate you guys so much. I did post up your reaction, your short reaction videos up on Patreon yesterday. So go do. I was gonna do one as well, but I might do that before I put this up. So.
Oh, there you go.
Just depends on how much we talk into this, because I feel like we're gonna have a lot to say on this one.
Oh, yes.
Right. So anyway, real quick on news though, I want to say the best news that I think that came out, that is not just a rumor but an actual release. So the last. There's been 2 already of these certain point of view books, right? Celebrating the 40th anniversary of A New Hope and then Empire. And of course, this year is the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So, of course, they just released that book is coming out September 5th of this year. So a little later. Normally it comes out around the time the anniversary is. But it will be September 5th, 40 stories. So again, celebrating 40 years of Return of the Jedi. Just a quick, there's a couple things here that they mentioned that it's going to be about. So Olivier Blake is going to give us a chilling glimpse into the mind of the Emperor.
Ooh.
Saladin Ahmed recounts the tragic history of the Rancor Keeper. So that's
no.
Malakiki, I think his name is. Charlie Jane Anders explores the life and times of the Sarlacc. Interesting. Fran Wild reveals Mon Mothma's secret mission to save the Rebel Alliance. That one I'm very interested in.
Okay.
Mary Kenny chronicles Wicket, the Ewoks' quest for one quiet day on the forest moon of Endor. And Anakin Skywalker becomes one with the Force in a gripping tale by Mike Chen. So that one stood out to me because that may explain how he becomes a Force ghost.
Yes.
Which would be pretty incredible that we get that 40 years later finally.
Absolutely.
Right?
And hopefully we'll answer a lot of questions.
I think that will. And Mike Chen actually, if those of you don't remember, he just wrote Brotherhood, which was a fantastic book.
Yes.
So those are some just quick, what is that, 6 of the 40 stories that are coming. I mean, the list is long, of course, by the 40 authors. Looking at them, you can definitely see some of these that you would know. Adam Christopher, who wrote Shadow of the Sith. Mm-hmm. Jason Fry's on here that wrote several books. I'm just kind of looking at names that I recognize right away. Sarah Kuhn. Yeah, some of these other ones I don't really recognize, but yeah, that's coming later this year. So. There's not too many books on the list right now, but I bet you come Celebration, there's going to be a whole mess of release dates for books that are coming. But
oh yeah,
So there's that. The only other thing is, again, these are kind of little articles that I read. Not sure if you saw or heard any of this, Hannah, but one was, now this isn't really anything new. I think this is Iger kind of, because you remember when Iger left a couple years ago, all the Star Wars movies had been released by that point, right? That was after he left, after Rise of Skywalker came out, and he mentioned how there's going to be a little pause on movies and stuff like that. Well, he basically just reiterated that again recently. Basically saying that, the sequel trilogy was, in their mind, a very big success. It made a lot of money, which it did. I mean,
Yeah,
they
business-wise.
They made billions. I mean, and then, of course, he said, you had two standalones, Rogue One, which did pretty well, and then Solo, which didn't. And he does admit that Solo was the one that kind of put a halt on this 1 year movie, one movie a year concept for Star Wars. So now he just again reiterated that we need to really focus on what we want to release as far as Star Wars films, and make sure it's hits all those, checks all those boxes and whatnot. So anyway, I mean, I don't know. Part of well, and he kept saying too. I remember he said a couple times, like he felt like they rushed a lot of stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And that they don't want to rush it. But my thought to that though is that I feel like, I get it. You have to hit a certain release date, like in the movie business, right? Because most of the time studios don't move release dates, even though you might need more time on a movie. It's too late. Sorry. So I get the pressure that goes on with that, but I just but my thing is that you don't have, at least in the movies that have come out, you don't have the same people making the movies, right? You have different directors and different producers and different crews. So maybe you feel rushed, but I mean, I don't know. It sounds like you've given these guys 2 years at least to make this movie. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what that comes from, but I'm not in it either. So whatever.
I don't know. I mean, if they want to take their time to make sure they give us a quality Star Wars movie, then I'm all for it. I'd rather them give a quality product than a rush product.
But that still might not make it better. Like, just because you add more time to making a movie doesn't necessarily make it better.
That's true, but at least then you're really vetting it and you're really making sure that everything is explored before you throw up something that's not good.
Yeah, I guess. Did you see the second Avatar movie yet?
No, I did not.
Okay. So that's a clear example of waiting and really taking your time.
And it's still not good.
And was it really paid off that well? I don't know. That's I don't want to wait 10 years for a Star Wars movie and then be like, wait a minute, I waited 10 years for that?
That's what I waited for.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, you're going to have misses. It's inevitable. It's like poker. You're going to lose eventually. You can't win every hand, right? So you have to put, I mean, it's just like the MCU. The MCU has as well as I do, right? I mean, the MCU has missed a lot. But they haven't stopped making them. Right?
I almost wonder if they're kind of waiting to see what the future of movies is going to be in the sense of movie theaters.
Wow. I mean, movie theaters are pretty much back now.
You can make an argument for that. You can make an argument for, well, why don't we just keep it to a streaming service? Like, I guess maybe my question for you is, are you looking for that whole movie theater experience with a Star Wars movie, or are you okay if they did something like Black Widow, like Marvel did with Black Widow, where it wasn't really released in theaters, it was released on Disney Plus?
Well, that was only because of the pandemic. So if
Well,
right now, I think you have to go back to the theater because you definitely don't make as much money on streaming than you would unless you do what you did with Black Widow, is you put a premium price on it.
Right.
But not everybody's going to pay it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're going to wait. But no, I think the theater experience, I mean, unless you have a home theater, there's nothing like it, right?
There isn't.
And Star Wars they're meant to be seen in theaters. Now I think you should think about doing both.
Yeah.
You spend the bigger budgets making the theater movies, but you don't have to spend $50 million to make a movie for Disney Plus. You can make one for 10, 12, 20, whatever. I mean, depending on the story, obviously, right? And what kind of visual effects you need, and I guess what kind of cast do you do. But I mean, I'm very surprised that they haven't done any Star Wars or even Marvel movies strictly for streaming. It's always been shows.
Yeah, I wonder if another part of it is that because didn't you mention, I feel like you mentioned this in a previous recording, that they were going to lay out a timeline very similar to what they did for Marvel.
A release timeline?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it could be what they're trying to do is, yes, movies may still be halted, but it's only going to be halted for another 2 years before the next one comes out. And it could be they just wanted to make sure, because we really haven't experienced Star Wars outside of this Skywalker saga and of High Republic. So they want to make sure the lore is good. They want to make sure they don't make the same mistakes that Marvel did with their most recent releases. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's it. Maybe the only reason why he's saying it's still on hold is because it means we're not seeing one for still a couple of years.
Definitely not. I think at Celebration we're going to get, there's big rumors right now that they know what movie they're going to make. Mm-hmm. And they know, I think that the idea is that it may come out December of 2025.
Right.
So, which would be 6 years since we last got a movie. That's pretty surprising to me. Knowing Disney and Disney putting out 2 or 3 MCU movies a year, I'm just surprised there's going to be this big gap. Now, it is a good advantage, good optimal time to now go to a different era.
Yes,
because you're away from that era now. And explore different parts of the timeline with different characters and things like that. So that's probably what they're going to do. Another part of this is that, Favreau did say that the discussions that they're having are about movies beyond The Rise of Skywalker. Good. So that looks like to be and that was the rumor about the next movie being beyond that. Mm-hmm. But you had announcements too that Kevin Feige, his movies got shelved.
Yep.
Patty Jenkins that was doing Rogue Squadron, that got shelved. Now Taika's movie apparently is still getting developed, and it looks like the next rumor right now is that Taika wants to star in it as well. So
please.
So we'll see how that goes. But I think neither that movie or any movie that we don't know about is getting announced at Celebration. I think the movie Beyond the Rise of Skywalker is the one that's probably going to get announced. And then, from there, it's just a matter of is that movie a trilogy or is it just a one-off? that's I think the big question too is, are these movies going to start? Are they going to be tied together somehow, like the MCU in a way, or are they going to be completely standalone stories? I think you have to have. I don't know. I'm leaning towards. I think you have to have kind of a blueprint of what each movie, how it's kind of, how it, it doesn't have to lead to like an Avengers movie or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But they should be in the same conversation, I think.
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. And I just wonder if they're trying to get their ducks in a row. They want to make sure the lore is all fleshed out.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that could be true. Yeah.
Because we've never experienced this before. So it's like, how do we make sure that it's still Star Wars even though it's outside?
Right. Yeah. That's gonna be key for them. Yeah, because that could be the strategy, is that you, in the movies, you kind of go outside the saga on the back end, like the future end, and then you've got Disney Plus that's still handling stuff within the saga, and then you've got publication like the High Republic doing stuff before the saga.
I want a Knights of the Old Republic freaking movie or TV show, for Pete's sake.
Well, first, I mean, I want that game. If they're going to remake that game, I want that game first.
Is it clarified whether or not it's a remake or a remastering?
Well, that's the thing, is at first it was a remake, but apparently that kind of got scrapped because they went with they kind of handed it over to a different studio, because I don't think they liked the remake part of it. So I think the rumor is that now they're actually kind of remastering it in a sense where it's, it's canonized now, and it's going to be hopefully. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that's where they're going with it. And we should get that announcement too at Celebration.
It's such a great story. It doesn't need to be changed. People who know, I'm not sharing the twist, but you know what I'm talking about, and it's a brilliant moment in the game.
I don't know if I know, so
I'll tell you when we're done recording.
Okay, fine.
If you want to be spoiled.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I am looking forward to. Hopefully, I hope it's not, because people that have listened to us for a long time know that I'm not a fan of turn-based games. So hopefully they change that. No, I can't do it. I'm not a turn-based guy. No.
All I know is I dropped my controller when the twist happened.
Oh, okay.
I was literally like, what?
Yeah, if it's turn-based, that's one of the ones where I'll probably just like watch all the cutscenes on YouTube or something.
But the turn-based isn't terrible. You just say, yeah, I want to do this. I want to do this. And you just set your other players up for success. It's not like you take your turn and then you got to wait for everybody else to take a turn. It all happens simultaneously.
No, that's when you're fighting. Like when you're fighting during the campaign and you come across something you're fighting, you take a turn and then it takes a turn and then you take a turn.
That's not what happens.
That's
not in this gameplay.
In Knights of the Old Republic?
No, you just say, I want to do this, and then. Or am I thinking of Knights of the Old Republic 2? I could have sworn that was the same in Knights of the Old Republic 1. You don't do an attack and then you have your team do an attack and then they do an attack. You just all do it at once. Right? Am I not remembering this?
No. I mean, turn-based means you like fire your weapon or you make a hit and then you wait until the opponent returns fire. And then there's no blocking and all that. Like you're not controlling yourself during an attack.
You're not controlling yourself, but you're still telling yourself what to do.
Yeah, but it's still turn-based. It's still like I'm not as opposed to like full action where you're like Jedi Fallen Order where you're moving around and you're actually controlling every aspect of the attack. Like it's not like that. That's the difference between turn-based and, normal gameplay, I guess, whatever you call it.
Maybe I'm confusing Knights of the Old Republic 1 with Knights of the Old
Republic.
Republic
It's like Final Fantasy, if you ever played Final Fantasy. That's why I never got into Final Fantasy. That's all turn-based.
The latest Final...
Well, I don't know about the latest one, but I know all like
Oh,
1
okay.
through
I was supposed to be
7
like,
was turn based. Like you travel around. It's definitely like role playing. You're going around doing everything, but then all of a sudden it's like you come across something you're fighting. It's like, da, 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 and then their energy kind of goes down, and then they fight you, da, 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 and your energy goes down. Then you fight back,
man, you would hate D&D
and then it's
combat.
whoever gets your thing down the. But the fact that I can't like defend myself when I'm getting attacked, that's frustrating. That was very frustrating to me.
You deflect blasters
No,
in
not in turn
KOTOR
based.
2.
I mean, you can
Yes.
deflect the amount of damage you take.
No, it was do poo poo, but you don't do anything. It just naturally does it because that's the Jedi stance you chose.
Well, whatever you call it, it's still turn based. Turn based gameplay. So
You would hate D&D combat.
probably, yeah.
You did get one reaction though, so you could do something in a reaction to
Right.
cast shield.
I can handle turn based during card games, but I can't.
Okay.
I can't video games anyway.
Okay. Well, then maybe they will take that away. Maybe it is
Hopefully
more
they
of a-
do. Hopefully they do, but maybe not.
I don't know.
So you might have to play. If it is, you might have to play that game and let me know.
I'll gladly play it.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, yeah, more. I'm sure there's going to be gaming news that comes out at Celebration as well. So, looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Release schedule. Before we get into these main topics here with the shows, this past week kind of snuck up on me. Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars just came out. So that is in your on your shelves or in your audiobook library. I am Hannah going to start that book. I'm gonna try and knock that out and get that done before the game comes out, because I'm dying to get into the Thrawn Ascendancy books so that we can talk about those. But I want to do this book. You want to do this book too? Are you going to do this?
Oh, heck yes. I'm probably going to get it from Audible tomorrow.
Yeah. So I got that too. Now coming here in a few weeks, April 4th, you've got the High Republic Cataclysm. You've got May 2nd, another High Republic Path of Vengeance still, and then Rise of the Red Blade, July 18th. And then, of course, the new book we just mentioned, From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, coming September 5th. Comics-wise, this past week on your shelves, you had Bounty Hunters 32, High Republic 6, and Sana Staros number 2. Next week, Yoda number 5. March 22nd, Darth Vader 32. And then to round out March, on March 29th, High Republic number 7 and High Republic The Blade number 4. So a lot of good comic stories still coming out this month. So go check those out. Okay, let's talk about the Bad Batch first.
All right.
So the Bad Batch, episode 12, called The Outpost. I saw the title a couple days ago, and I had no idea what it was going to be about. I figured it'd still be about our guys, our normal clone Force 99 guys and gal. But right into this thing, we got a glimpse of Crosshair. And we got a very interesting story here. So let's just do the overall review. Hannah, what did you think about this episode?
Man, I mean, with Metamorphosis being last week's episode, I think we really truly have hit a metamorphosis in this series.
You said that too, actually, at the end of last week.
Here's hoping that pattern continues. This was a fantastic episode. I think there was a lot of attention to detail, and there was a lot of artistic choices that were made, and a lot that just went into the writing. And I think to finally see Crosshair snap. Like, I did not see this episode coming, in all honesty. I didn't see Crosshair snapping. I didn't see any of this type of interaction or the slight changes in Crosshair that we've witnessed I just didn't see this episode coming. I didn't see what happened in this episode coming. Wow. Great episode. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. When I saw Crosshair, I immediately thought, okay, so my first thought was, I'm curious if we'll see the Clone Force 99, the rest of them at all this episode. But as we got into like what the mission was going to be, I was like, yeah, we're not. This is going to be a Crosshair episode, which is great. I mean, we haven't seen Crosshair since episode 3. Mm-hmm. So this is only his second episode this season. And, it's kind of unfortunate, in my opinion, though, even though, bottom line, I think this was a great episode. But this is what I wanted more of. And I think it's unfortunate that third episode to now, like, there's obviously time has passed, but we don't know what he's been through.
Yeah.
Right? Has he been sitting around until this mission? Probably not. I'm sure he's been going on several missions. So it's kind of hard, in my opinion, to see the frustration that's building in him, right? Of course, the thing that happened with Cody in episode 3 was frustrating, and he experienced him walking away, and he experienced a freaking, horrible, rude officer in that episode also, right? So you get another one in this one, but I think it's even worse. I mean, this guy has no regard for clone life. And I mean, other than that was like the only thing, because you want to experience. I feel like you want to experience what he's going through, not just in these episodes, but in the course of time, being away from the team, being isolated by himself. No one really to confide in, or you know what I mean. Like he's by himself. So you get some of that obviously with this. I think, Mayday, who he's kind of partnered with, I felt like, it's funny because he's just another clone, but he was such a great character in this episode. So anyway, I thought it was really good. I thought it was really good. I think it took another big step, and then, to me the big payoff was, what happened at the end, because it does finally tie back into kind of this overarching storyline of this cloning facility that's going on, right? So that was pretty awesome to see this start coming together finally, So anyway, I was pretty thrilled by it.
Going back to what you said about the whole Crosshair thing, like, I completely agree with you. I think my biggest complaint about this episode, if you want to even call it a complaint, is I just said, why snap now?
Yeah.
Why
right.
have this realization now? In the beginning of this episode, you were talking, or right when you're entering the cave, you're talking to Mayday about how, it's just dead weight. Mm-hmm. But then, 15 minutes later, not even, you're suddenly carrying Mayday.
Yes.
And keeping him warm and caring for him. What made you change your mind? Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. I think if we saw a little bit more of, even if it was just one episode or half of an episode, or even if there's a little montage in the beginning of this to show that growing frustration from Crosshair throughout it, of being treated like he's a weapon. And we see it a bit in episode 3, but I think the disconnect is that in episode 3 he accepts that he's a weapon. He accepts that he's a tool. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden in the beginning of this episode we see him being really jaded about the fact that he's seen that way.
Right.
So I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that when he saw the explosion through his scope, and all of a sudden something hit, it was something affected his head. Very similar to when we saw the clones start responding to Order 66. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I don't know if that reversed something in his head, reversed the chip. And that's what made him change?
Yeah, I think I'm starting to think that I don't think the chip has really been affecting him, and we haven't seen him like we did last season, where he is kind of forced into that. I don't know, that whatever that chamber thing is, or that where it kind of like reinforces the chip again. I don't know if because the Camino's not around anymore, obviously, so there's no
Right.
facility to do that in. So obviously, I think there has time has passed. So I think it really is just a matter of starting to come to grips with the fact that he's not wanted anymore, right? And not appreciated, or not supported by his superiors. So,
Yeah.
but like you said, I think it would have been nice to see a little bit more of that build up. And let me just throw this at you, because obviously they're not doing it, but I'm curious. Some shows, not all, but some shows, maybe you can't do it because it's only 30 minutes. These things are only 30 minutes long, but some shows, bounce back between our characters, even though they're
Yes.
totally different storylines. Like, we could have seen Crosshair throughout these episodes, maybe just kind of drop in on him, what he's doing, right? And then go back to what our main team is doing. don't know.
Imagine if that was during the episode where Omega was trying to wrestle with the loss of Echo.
Right. Yeah.
That would have been a very powerful parallel if he just bounced back and forth.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
also would make that episode not feel so long.
Yes. And just the show that comes to mind, and I know it's not the same, but like Game of Thrones did that, right?
Oh.
I mean, they jumped all over the place during an episode. So it does happen. You don't have to just stay on the main characters. That storyline's going on. You can kind of tell parallel stories, like you said, and I think that would have. I felt like that's what we were going to get. At least the way it set it up is that we were going to get a couple episodes of the guys and then a Crosshair episode. A couple episodes with the guys and then it's like, and that probably would have been fine too.
Yes.
But to wait 9 episodes until we got back to him, I don't know. That was unfortunate.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So, well, you mentioned a couple things about some, like, before we start recording, like some parallels or some comparisons or something. Or
So
whatever.
the day before, I watched these on Wednesday. So Tuesday night, I was watching Prince of Egypt with my husband. If you have not seen that movie, highly recommend. It's so good.
The Disney animated movie, right?
No, it's a DreamWorks.
Oh, it's a live action movie?
No, it's animated. It's a DreamWorks animated.
DreamWorks animated. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And Zach, my husband, he was pointing out so many different things throughout the movie. Like, oh, you see how Moses is trying to get up the hill and he keeps on running into slaves. And then all of a sudden, what really gets him up the hill is the fact that he makes a choice in that moment who he is, and he kills the slaver. And then when he's running away, he runs away in the same direction all the slavers. But the one that really stood out to me, especially after watching this Bad Batch episode, was the one where Moses is in the desert after he ran away from Egypt, and a sandstorm comes in and he gets buried in the sand. So obviously a huge symbolism of baptism or death and resurrection, where he emerges as a new person. Well, if you look at the design of when he starts coming back out, when he's trying to climb out of the sand, if you look in the back, it looks like there are rows of a field. It looks like it's someone just freshly plowed a garden or farmland or something. So it's like the whole idea of a new plant. Like, it's just reinforcing new life. Well, we see that in this episode. We see the detail of the fact that Crosshair is just buried by the snow. And then he comes out of it. So it's like a baptism because snow is cold water, frozen water. It's also death and resurrection.
Yes.
And that is when we see him, his whole mind, his whole thought process change, which is cool. But then you have the omens of the ice vultures and just that constant pressure, and like that being a reminder of these generals,
Right.
and then saying, okay, enough's enough. They're not going to have their fun anymore. So just a lot of really cool, there were a lot of really cool artistic touches done to this. Like even the fact that Mayday, he is so calloused by the fact that he's losing all his team members that he was just very nonchalant as he was trying to help Crosshair avoid that pressure plate mine or whatever it was called
Yes.
in the cave. He was just so nonchalant about it. Like, ouch. How much have you had to go through for this? So just those little details throughout this episode really stood out for me personally.
That's a good analogy about that. I think the whole and to be honest, I really think that that's what they were going for, the whole buried and come out a different person kind of thing. I mean, you see that a lot in different storytelling aspects.
Yeah, like if you see a scene with rain, change is a coming.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, that's a great. Because I think I think about those things sometimes. I don't catch them all, but because I'm so kind of. I think more about the person and their mindset, more said about the situation around them. To you know what I mean? Like with him, I was thinking more so. About him, about just being a survivor and trying to, and why is he helping this person? Why is he wanting to save Mayday so badly? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's valid because, he's up until this point, we know he just follows orders. And, his orders were to get the crates and bring them back. And instead of bringing it back, he brings Mayday back. And and then we kind of had this, we kind of had a little bit of this talk about whether or not he snapped. And, well, he did snap, but you were kind of talking about, is he completely switched now?
Yeah, is he like...
Or is he... Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if it's I've had it with you. I don't know. I think it's an overall he's done. Just because of the symbolism of the ice vultures. And he kind of looks up at it. It's that symbolizes the Empire just kind of circling them, waiting until their time is up, waiting until they're dead to swoop in and truly take over. So because of that, and because of the ice vulture symbolizing the Empire, I think he's done. I think that was a symbol.
But do you think he's done in the sense? Do you think he was thinking, "This is the end of my life"?
Oh, I don't think it was that. I think he's just like, I'm done serving the Empire.
I think
Because he had to have known that if he shot and killed that officer, there was no coming back from that.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I thought my feeling was that I don't think he had a switch go off that he was, I guess, turning back to where he was, right? I do think though that he's completely in the moment so angry at this guy, at this lieutenant, and he wanted him to pay for leaving Mayday to die. And I think he was giving up, at least what I kind of took from him looking up at the vultures, like, okay, this is the end, because if I shoot this guy, more likely these troopers are going to come and kill me. So I'm ready to go. Like I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to fight.
I'm expendable anyway.
Do what?
I said, I'm expendable anyway.
Exactly. Like this is, if I don't die here, I'm going to die eventually. And so that was my feeling. Now, so I don't know if he thought he was going to survive out of that situation.
You know what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because in the beginning of that episode, we get this side conversation of this other person in leadership talking to retired clones saying, we hope you enjoy your retirement. And one of them says, yeah, our forced retirement. We're soldiers. What are we supposed to do? And she doesn't answer his question.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's
so
interesting.
You might be right. You might be right.
That's interesting. So, but of course we know he does survive, and he wakes up on Terrace. I think it's called Terrace. The facility now where they're experimenting. So I don't know. My thought, Hannah, is that I think they're keeping him there, and I think this is where our boys are going to have to come and save him.
I think they're actually going to go. I think they're going to, because
they're going to find their
way
there. Yeah.
They're going to find their way there, because in the last episode, they realized that the weakness to the Camino or the Camonian, or I'm messing up their alien race, but
Kaminoan, yeah.
Thank you. Is Omega. So I think what's going to happen is the Bad Batch is going to come to rescue Omega, and they come across Crosshair.
Interesting. Yes, that's true. That's a good point. So the next episode is called, well, who knows what this means? It's called Pabu. So
all I can imagine is like a little, like not a Grogu.
Yeah.
And not a Jabba the Hutt character, but something a little squishy, something a little pink. All I can think of is Jigglypuff, the Pokemon Jigglypuff.
Oh yeah. Pabu could be a planet also.
Yeah, Pabu. Or Pabu the red panda.
Yeah. So that's the next episode. We'll see if Omega gets taken then, or. But you're right. I think that's true. I think Omega, probably something happens to Omega. She gets taken there. The guys get drawn there. That's probably the 2-episode finale, is them getting there and rescuing Omega and Crosshair. So Crosshair seems like he may end up with the team again at the end of the season. So
we shall see.
We shall see. It's getting good. Talk about good. Let's get to the second episode of The Mandalorian, called The Mines of Mandalore. Now, I know what your first reaction was, so go ahead and talk about yours.
Why was this not the first episode of season 3?
Yeah.
You didn't even need the first episode. You already have Bo-Katan and Din narrating the majority of what's happening. All you need to do is throw in a couple of extra lines, and bada bing, bada boom, you're all good. You didn't need the first episode at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my takeaway. What is yours?
That's your takeaway?
That's my takeaway.
But what did you think overall of this episode, though?
I thought it was definitely a lot better than the first episode. I watched it twice. And second time I watched it, Zach pointed out something. I was like, oh, okay, you might have a point there. But he and I both agreed it was way better than the first episode. And now we're excited for Mandalorian Season 3. We enjoyed it.
Yes.
I'm like, this is Star Wars. This is Star Wars.
Yeah, I was, what I felt about the first episode was just a big, long recap of where we were with these characters. And, you could have done that most of the time, Star Wars has even done this before, where they'll release like a social media video to kind of recap where we are. Marvel kind of does it with this show called Marvel Legends, I guess on Disney Plus, where you kind of what the journey of a character has been. They do that every time a movie comes out. So it's like you could have done like a little quick season 3 preview recap, and then that's it. Then you just go right into this next episode. So I get it. If you don't want to do that, fine. But you don't have to have it that long. Really love this episode. It's funny because I've seen it twice too, and I was just on browsing Twitter just right before we got on here, and it's funny because I noticed somebody on Twitter that now I wouldn't have gone here, but this kind of made sense. They're really confused by Din Djarin's travel path, because if you recall, he shows up wherever he's at the end of last episode, he leaves Bo-Katan, right?
Right.
Which is right by Mandalore.
Yes.
Now, Navarro is way on the other side of the Outer Rim, close to Tatooine. So you left Navarro and went to Bo-Katan. Then you went all the way back to Tatooine. And then you went back to Mandalore. So, yeah, it's like, that's a long way. You're talking hours of travel, right? So this person was like, I'm not sure I understand his thought process with all that. So,
man, he must be making bank somewhere, because if he can afford those gas prices,
know, right?
No, I just kind of chose to ignore the first episode entirely. And that's what I told Zach when we watched it for the second time. I'm like, just forget about the first episode.
Yeah, you almost have
forget
to.
Forget it. So yeah, it makes no sense. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you, when you left Grief and you needed that chip, like why did you not go to Tatooine at that point before you went all the way to Bo-Katan to kind of...
Right.
Because you would think you would go see if the chip was there, and then you would get R5, then you would go to Bo-Katan, tell her you're going to Mandalore, and then just hop right over to Mandalore. I don't know. Anyway, regardless of that, this episode, obviously, I think we're starting to seriously dive into the mythology of Mandalorians. And I think this is something that a lot of fans have been wanting for a long time. I guess there was probably a lot of questions of whether or not we'd even get there when this show started. Because the show was about a Mandalorian, not the Mandalorians. So, and we even were told that the Mandalorians got wiped out. So how many of them were out there? We learned in the first season, there's this little enclave of them, a little group of them in this enclave that, that are kind of isolated and hidden. But anyway, we're seriously getting into it now, with Bo-Katan and what she's learning about it. Now, I believe this episode has started to answer one of my longtime lingering questions, which is between Bo-Katan's belief system of the Mandalorians and the Armorer's belief system of Mandalorians. Which one is actually, if either of them, are the accurately historic belief system of Mandalorians?
That's an interesting question, and I don't know if we can answer it. Even Bo-Katan was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I recited it, but it was just meant as theater. It was a ceremony.
Yes.
And sure, it was sacred, but it's not
children's stories.
I think it's the same. Yeah, I think it's the same way. This is the biggest comparison I could think of. It's very much like people who are like, oh, you have to wear a dress to church. You have to wear your Sunday best. Versus the younger generation, and that tends to be the older generation. Then the younger generation's like, no, I can wear jeans, jeans and a button down to church. That's fine.
Yeah.
So like, I think like they both still have the same underlining principle, and they both still have the whole tradition of we still need to go to church. We still need to have these texts of Mandalorian, like the Mandalorian texts and these vows and such, but they're just taken to different degrees, I guess. So I don't necessarily know if one's right or wrong.
Yeah, I'm starting to lean over to the point that I kind of feel like what Din and the armor are, like their belief system, I'm starting to feel like that was kind of the ancient ways. Because that look on Bo-Katan's face at the end of that episode,
Yeah, that was...
it kind of was telling me that she's starting to realize, wow, like this stuff is actually true. Because I think the mythosaur thing, obviously that's the big reveal of this, right?
Once again, why was this not episode 1 of season 3?
See, that's what I'm saying. Like that should have been the end of episode 1. You're exactly right. Because we got, there's always been this kind of surprise reveal at the end of the premiere episode, right? Grogu, and then Boba Fett, and then the mythosaur would have been on par with that. Like that end of that first episode would have been what? I totally agree with you. So but just like her on that, when as we're reacting to that too, it's like, wow, those things, they're real. I mean, because they were always referred to as this mythical creature. Like, were they actually around? Has anybody ever seen one? It seems like they haven't seen one ever.
Right. So are we witnessing the rebirth of Mandalorians in general?
I totally think so. Absolutely. I think that's where this show is actually going now.
That's amazing.
That we're going to see, just like, we kind of are starting to maybe see in the movies the rebirth of the Jedi, the rebuilding of the Jedi. I think this is this is going to end up being the rebirth and reorganization, restructuring of the Mandalorians. Now, doesn't seem like Mandalore is that habitable of a planet to live on. They might have to live somewhere else. But I do think this is kind of the goal of the show, is to unite all the Mandalorians again and rebuild their society. I totally think that's where we're going with this.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's what this episode kind of told me, I think. And that look of Bo-Katan's face was, man, this is real. Like this is something that I need to take serious.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The one thing from this episode that I didn't get is that I love the fact that we got from Bo-Katan an explanation as to those creatures that attacked both her and Din.
Yes.
But then the creature that was taking Din's blood, we didn't really get an explanation for that. And first time watching it, I was just like, something we haven't seen before. Like, I was completely blown away. But then second time watching it, Zach pointed out, cool, but how?
Yeah. It looked like, so for some reason, the whole eye thing.
Yes.
I feel like that's familiar.
Isn't it familiar? I thought it was familiar too,
Yes, but I can't place it.
I can't place it at all.
Now, the first time we see it, that we see the machine, the kind of like the droid type thing that comes out of it. I mean, my first thought was it looked like a transformer from the Michael Bay movies. I mean, it literally looked like one of those transformers. So I was like, oh, this is weird. This is a machine that has like kind of a cybernetic eye, or not a cybernetic eye, almost like a actual eye. So it's like a little creature that is in this thing. But I'm telling you, as she was fighting it, I was like, man, where have I seen that thing before?
Yeah, okay. I gotta quickly Google and see if there's even an answer out there.
Yeah, and I've been looking, like I was searching Twitter a little bit, and no one mentioned anything. So I'm thinking some of the ones people I follow would have probably mentioned it or said what it came from, but I think it is actually new to Star Wars. Maybe it was some other sci-fi movie or something that I saw it in, but it seems very Star Wars to me.
Yeah, all that's popping up is everyone's about the mythosaur.
Yeah. So maybe something will come of it. But you're right. I think an explanation, or even the simple fact of Bo-Katan telling us, like, I have no idea what that thing was and why it was here. I mean, that would have been enough to at least tell us that it was something new. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what it was doing there, why it was there, because it was a part droid, part something.
It was something. It was.
And yeah,
it's so
what was it
frustrating.
doing with his blood? I mean, it kind of looked like at first when he put Din on that, that cage, and set it the way he did, it looked like he was to me, it looked like he was going to cook him. Like he looked like he was like
Yeah.
on a rotisserie.
I thought he was going to eat him too.
So maybe that's what he was doing. Maybe he's draining his blood so that he can cook him and eat him.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck is he doing?
I mean, that's the only thing I thought of whenever I saw that. But
Yeah, nobody's really mentioning anything about that. Everyone's going nuts over the mythosaur, though.
so, yeah, no. So
I mean, that's huge.
huge. No,
Yeah.
that was crazy.
That was insane. I was
Insane.
like, what?
That I did not expect that at all. I mean, I expected something down there. I thought something dragged Din underneath the water,
I thought so too. I was like,
but it looked like he just like fell.
because it kind of went,
Yeah, it's like a steep drop off. Yeah.
yeah. So, and because he wasn't expecting it, I'm sure he might have hit his head or something.
Well, I think also because that armor must drag him to the bottom, right?
And he took off his jetpack.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So
So,
he just sank.
yes, you wear armor, you will
Yeah.
sink.
Yeah, especially heavy Beskar.
Kind of how physics works.
Very much so. So I'm very curious on what we're going to get in this next episode.
Yeah. Oh, one more question I wanted to ask. Did you notice in watching it that Bo-Katan handled the Darksaber
Oh yeah.
beautifully, like beautifully, but for Din it looked like it was heavy?
Yes. Yeah, that's what it was. Remember? Did you see Book of Boba Fett? You did.
Oh, that probably answers the question then.
Okay, so
I didn't.
yes. So okay, Book of Boba Fett. I'll tell you this. So there's 2 episodes, right?
Right.
That brought Din back, and then of course he went and found Grogu with Luke. But in the first episode, he's back. He walks into this like this meat, almost like a slaughterhouse, where all these.
Okay.
And he was looking for the boss that was there, the guy that. And so he was on a bounty, and then he fights these guys. Basically, he pulls a saber out, and he is struggling, lifting the saber and fighting with it and all this stuff. In fact, to the point where he actually like hits his own leg.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so he's limping out, and he ends up getting back to the armor and Paz. And it's actually it seems like it's actually the first time he finds them. So he pulls this Darksaber out, and then the armorer goes on to explain what the history of it.
Oh, okay.
That it came from Tar Vizsla, and he was the Jedi Mandalorian, blah, blah, blah. They treat his leg, and Paz Vizsla is the big guy. So it's his descendant. So it's basically his great or whatever grandfather created the saber. So he starts kind of training with it with her a little bit, and she explains to him that you have to will it. you have to, I mean, it's a saber, right? I mean,
Yeah, it makes sense.
so you have to like, he's like trying too hard to use it, where he's not trying to just like feel it.
Will the Darksaber be Grogu's new lightsaber?
I don't know, but you're right though.
Yeah.
It's almost like Bo-Katan is meant to wield it, because she wielded it, so she destroyed everybody she came across.
Yes.
I mean, she didn't even flinch. Even that big machine, no problem. Very cool. Very impressed with that. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I did notice that. But that was a reflection of what happened in Book of Boba Fett. So he still hasn't been able to control it in a way that kind of makes it more his.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. Makes sense now. Thank you.
You should probably just watch those 2 episodes, honestly.
I probably should.
Yeah.
At some point. Eventually.
Yeah.
But I think that does show a testament, though, with the fact of, even if they felt like they needed an episode 1 as a filler, I haven't seen the remainder of Book of Boba Fett, or the pieces of Book of Boba Fett that actually count and matter for setting this up.
Yes.
And the fact that even though like I knew those tidbits, those were spoiled for me, I didn't need to watch it to watch that. I picked up right as it left off with episode 2.
Right.
So I just want to say, like, for people who are like, oh, they were doing this to help give people context for what's going on. You don't need it.
No, you don't need it.
You don't need it.
Agreed. No, that's a good point. Because Bo-Katan is what I wanted to say I focused on the most, I think, in this, is getting her back fully. And she's going to be a massive part of this season, it feels like.
I'm so excited.
I am too.
It's going to be so great.
She's fantastic. I did read another thing, which we can get into down the road, but there was another thing online that some people seem frustrated with, is possibly Bo-Katan's age. Seems like there's some contradiction going on with, because she talked about her father and taking the creed, and someone had laid down a timeline of that she should be, like, she's portrayed younger than what she should be. Anyway, I don't know.
Well, maybe Mandalorians just age a lot slower than
maybe.
your regular human being.
Yeah.
You know, alien races, they age differently. Clearly Grogu, who's like, what, 60 something, and he's a little baby.
Right.
Maybe Mandalorians, or maybe it's something that's just in the royal family. Or heck, I don't know, maybe she just has great aging genes.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, so what they're saying, I think the last one that I saw that was trying to track her age could be that she's like early 50s right now.
I could actually see that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's an issue.
I don't view her age as an issue at all. I think
no.
If you're nitpicking someone's age, then Star Wars is doing something right, because it means that they put on a pretty great show that you couldn't find anything else to pick at.
That's true. That's definitely true. Yeah, I don't think that matters. I think
I mean, continuity matters, but I think that's taking it too far.
Yeah, I think it does.
Everybody ages differently. Different races age differently. And I mean, who knows? Maybe she just found this like great moisturizer.
Yeah.
Maybe she found the fountain of youth.
She is from royalty, so they have a lot more access to things than everything else. So yeah.
So yeah, there you go. That's all it is. That's all it is.
All right. So those were our discussions on that. Let's drop in a couple, if I can get to it, a couple of comments. Our master patron, Thrawn Addict, is going to comment here.
Of course. I'm excited.
So let's see. Last episode. Let's see. Last episode. What was the last episode? 389. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Great review. Once again, always look forward to both of your thoughts and opinions, especially because they're usually similar to my own. I really enjoyed Mando episode, but agree with both of you. Feels like it was a bit of an introduction and recap, kind of catching you up where catching people up where Mando's mission is. I find it quite funny they didn't put Grogu in recap to explain why he is back, because I know quite a few people did not watch Book of Boba Fett, so it might have been confusing for them. Did really enjoy episode though. A lot of humor and always great to see Grief with his big robes and that needed to be lifted by 2 droids. I did think Din needed IG-11 was random and not really justified, especially with the distrust of droids, but wasn't major. Loved the space battle between the space battle scene in the asteroids. Need more space battles in Star Wars. Bad Batch finally picked up. Glad they went back into the cloning arc, and loved the horror theme of this episode. Felt like an alien movie. Plus, always good to see Commando troopers. Lastly, I'm with you and Hannah. Can't wait for a timeline book. Will be good to see where certain events happen from books, comics, and where they fall in relation to films and TV shows. Thanks again. May the Force be with you.
And with your spirit.
And with your, yeah. No, that was, that's good. That is true about Grogu. I think if you didn't see Book of Boba Fett or didn't know about that, then yes, that would have been weird. Like, why is he back already?
What I also did appreciate about this episode is that Grogu was no longer the funny tag-along character to the Disney princess. They actually did something. That was great. Sorry. Din is a Disney princess. There you go. Done.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's actually good in this sense to know that Grogu is in the moment. Like he is, he knows what's going on. It's not like a little baby where you have to like fully he's capable of taking care of himself. Mm-hmm. So that's good to see and good to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Of course, we'll be back next week to talk. Actually, I don't know if we will be because you are out of town next week, right?
Yes. Yes, that's right.
So may have to catch up a little later. Yeah. Maybe maybe when you get back or depending on what your schedule is out there. We'll see. But there will be 2 episodes again. Episode 13 of The Bad Batch, and episode 3 of The Mandalorian. I don't know which one you still watching first.
I don't know. I probably will watch Bad Batch first just because I'm gonna want to watch Mandalorian with Zach.
Yeah, true.
So probably Bad Batch.
There is a rumor I saw that the 3rd episode of The Mandalorian apparently is clocking in at 56 minutes. So
nearly an hour?
Nearly an hour. So I don't know if I have time in the morning with my daughter to watch that Wednesday morning, so I might have to watch Bad Batch as well and then watch it a little later, which is frustrating because I don't want to get spoiled on anything.
Yeah. Well, maybe what we can do is we can just ask everybody, hey, who wants to watch Mandalorian during lunch? Take our hour lunch to go watch Mandalorian.
That's true. Yeah, we could do that for sure. All right. As always, again, thanks to our patrons for supporting the show. We really, really, really appreciate that. If you're interested in that, go to patreon.com/InsideTheForce. Of course, you listen on the podcast. If you want some additional video content, we're on YouTube at Inside the Force if you want to check out those shows. And the Mandalore podcast is going on as well with me and Martin Donison. We're deep diving in these shows as well. So if you're interested in seeing and listening to, or not seeing, because that's just strictly a podcast. If you want to listen to the long shows there, go check those out. And we appreciate all that. So, Hannah, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Great insight on those, and looking
Same
forward
to you.
to talking about the next episodes next week, as well as
Okay.
all this news coming out. Of course, just a reminder: Celebration is in a few weeks, 3 weeks actually. No, 4 weeks now. 4 weeks from now, Celebration starts in Europe. So,
Woohoo!
yeah, looking forward to that. And because it's 3 weeks when I leave for Disney. So,
Yay!
yay! Can't wait to get out of here for a little bit. All right, thanks you everybody as always for Hannah Burr.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Dave.
See you next week. May the force be with you.